Broadcasting live from Syracuse, New York, it's the PS&Ed Show. Addressing topics of public safety, education, and much more. Please welcome your hosts, Matt Mallory and Pat Kimball.
Hey, Pat.
Matt, how's it going?
Awesome. Yeah, Frank back.
What's going on?
What's up, buddy? Good to see you.
You too.
We had such a great time last time with Frank, and it was such a good hit. We decided to bring him back, and he graciously accepted. You'll actually see a picture in a little bit when we start talking about hunting. Looking for some turkeys, and this is really all we ended up getting.
That's all you guys brought back with you.
This is our spoils of the night, so as you can see.
Good job.
Yeah.
The real ones fall just as easy too.
Very good, very good. Cool. So hunting season is upon us. We had some fun out there in the woods, right?
Yeah, well, I'm ready to hit it again a little later. You know, figure we got a little break going on. We talk about some of the stuff we're using out there and everything else going on. It's November. It's Veterans Day.
Yep. So speaking of Veterans Day, we've got a free handgun safety course for any veterans or law enforcement that need it. So New York State handgun safety course free for law enforcement and veterans in the month of November. So make sure you check out the website so that you can sign up for that if you so desire or need it.
If I'm not mistaken, Matt, you do that again in May, is that right?
We do. We do it again. Yep, the entire month of May, same exact deal.
So for those of you guys that can't make it out in November, obviously look for the free handgun safety courses coming up again in 6 months from now, and hopefully you make it to the next one.
Yeah. If you're a time traveler,
right? They go backwards in your TARDIS.
Yeah, in your TARDIS. This is a plug for our daughter Brianna, this is her mug. She left it, and she's in California now. So
reclaimed, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, until she comes back in her TARDIS.
That's awesome that you guys do that. Just to give back.
Give back. Yeah, that's what it's about, right?
Amen.
Can't take all this stuff with you when you die.
So we want to talk about hunting today, and I see we got some gear here on the table. What is this stuff you guys are using in the field today?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Well,
so let's talk about it.
It's still wet. So A-Zoom by Lineman is our dummy rounds here, snap caps. Great product. And one of the things, why don't you tell us about the time last year when we were squirrel hunting and didn't have a plug for this in Pennsylvania.
So we're hunting in Pennsylvania. If you're not familiar with, most states have this, but Pennsylvania, you're limited to 3 rounds. So you have to go ahead and your shotgun comes with a limiter. This is a Mossberg 500, and usually we remove that and throw it out. We get the range and good to go. So we get up to my cabin in Pennsylvania. Matt didn't bring his with him, so I think we ordered in Chinese food, or I just had it laying in the drawer, and we thought about it, grabbed a chopstick, and lo and behold, it fit just right to plug your shotgun. So 2 in the magazine and 1 in the pipe, and we went out squirrel hunting with a chopstick in the 500.
And it works really well.
And it's still in there. It's still in there this year.
Yeah, a year
later,
later.
going to change it out. It's funny how once we start shooting, a new shooter picks up a shotgun, the first thing like, oh, limiter, get rid of this, Then once you start getting a little more experience, and once you start hunting different places in the country, you start saying like, where are all these parts that I got rid of not knowing any better, and how do I replace them on the fly? And if you're crafty enough out there, you come up with stuff like this. And this really
we had thought about just shoving a stick in there if we had to.
Yeah, or you can take the spring out. You can throw two fired cases in there, and that'll lock it up too, so you can come out of there.
So 1, 2. Oh look, won't go in. All right. There's our 3rd one, and can't get a 4th one in. So the chopstick.
And if you don't own a set of snap caps for every gun that you may even potentially work on in your house, let alone dry fire aspect, that's a good topic maybe later, or at least for another show. But you really owe it to yourself, your family, and your neighbors to have a set of these around. In the cabin, yeah, we had plenty of ammo. We're all experienced, but we also had the snap caps. We had our instructor bags with us, and there's no reason not to use inert ammunition for function testing when it doesn't need to go bang. Stuff like this, without a doubt.
And the best ones to get obviously are the snap caps, the ones that are actually going to take some of the cushion off of that firing pin, so it doesn't break or hurt the firing pin. And obviously, a zoom is one that we definitely recommend, and both of us are.
Yep. And they're part of that big Lyman conglomerate.
Yep.
So it's Lyman, a zoom, bunch of stuff in there.
Yep, exactly. All right, so let's talk about hunting a little bit more.
Yeah.
What do we hunt? Where do we hunt? What do we like to use as implements? So who wants to go first?
Yeah, so Frank travels pretty regularly.
Yeah,
right? So
yeah. I
let's
mean,
talk about that.
I'm spread out through eastern Long Island, eastern New York, really about as far as you can get. And I do a lot of hunting in Pennsylvania too. Squirrel Master Classic, I hunt down in Alabama with those guys.
Okay.
Squirrel hunting is probably my favorite kind of hunting.
Sure.
Because it's just a lot of action. You're gonna go through a box of shells in the woods. What else are you gonna do that with? You know.
Yeah.
You don't have to be quiet. It's usually really great weather out there, so you don't need a whole lot to. Well, at least when you're down south. But yeah, I've squirrel hunted in 90-degree weather, and I squirrel hunted last year in 20-degree weather.
Oh.
Snow on the ground and leaves still in the
Yeah.
trees. So, I mean,
Yeah.
both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Squirrel hunting is probably my favorite type, without a doubt. I get out. It's a busy time of year for us. Around the office and everything else. But I do try to get out for deer. Usually I don't make bow season because summer, the whole training industry seems to shut down in July and August. Nobody seems to want to come out between summer vacations and wherever we have to compete with the beach.
Right.
The beach always wins against the range for some reason. I don't know what's wrong with these people. But so September, October get to be ridiculous. I really don't do a lot of bow hunting, and it's really just by schedule. But I do like to try and get out for opening day or a week even after opening day, because sometimes it's a little crazy to get out then.
Right.
And
so quick, what do you use when you squirrel hunt?
well, when I squirrel hunt, depends on where I'm at and what season it is. I'm a big shotgun squirrel hunter. Usually it's a group activity. Me and Matt go on a squirrel hunt every year upstate, grazing Angus acres. Our friend Keith Gibson, he's got a ton of woods that we like to use around the pastures, and we always have a good time there. But usually there's 15, 20 of us, and that's kind of where I started getting really warmed up to the idea of using a shotgun instead of a rimfire for squirrel. Usually I load like number 6 or number 8, pretty much whatever I have handy, game loads, and a nice full choke. And then whenever you tell someone you hunt squirrel with a 12 gauge, they're like, there's got to be nothing left. And it's like, if I shot the squirrel at 7 yards, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, or buckshot.
Right, But realistically, we're shooting a squirrel out of a 20, 30-foot tree.
Yep.
I'm using a full choke. I'm putting it on the first half of the squirrel. Pretty much all the meat's in the back legs. I mean, you're going to harvest those squirrels nearly every time without damaging the meat, even with the shotgun.
Yep.
But the other reason I do is you have a whole lot more shots. I mean, when we're in the woods, we're only maybe like 300-400 yards from his house. That's still within 22 range. Should I miss?
Right.
And it arcs all the way down there. But a shotgun, 15, 20 yards further down the range, that stuff's going to come down like rain. And like I said, now I have more shots because I know my buddies are in the woods. I'm more comfortable taking that shot straight up, knowing that nothing's going to be coming down to hit them. Nothing's going to follow that arc and just continue over. So I love,
Mossberg, that's what I'm using when we do it.
I have an old trusty 500 there as well. We have a few of them. We have a few that we use for our classes, and then I have one that's it's built like a tank, but I mean it's been shot by 500 people, more than 500 people.
All the classes.
That wasn't their gun. So it was put down abruptly, used abruptly. Yeah. We have some replacement, parts on there that aren't OEM. It's just the cheapest thing we can throw on and keep it running. Right. And today it's been pouring, so we're out in a blind hunting turkey. Yep. And that's the gun that I have that I brought out with me. It's just my it's a work tool. Guns are tools. They don't need to be pretty. Yep. Plain and simple, but it does the job. Without a doubt.
Nice. And you've hunted squirrel also with
air rifles.
Air rifles.
Yeah. That's what we do down in Alabama. The Squirrel Masters Classic. That's a ton of fun.
Shotgun compared to air rifle.
Pros and cons.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about air rifle is, you can treat it a little more like a shotgun because you don't have the range you're going to have with a rimfire. The bad thing about it though is you don't have the same stopping power. So a lot of times it's going to take 2 or 3 shots. Yeah. We go up to 4H kits too.
One well-placed shot.
It depends, I've seen a squirrel with 3 shots in the head still climbing a tree in the head. I mean, They're resilient.
That's nuts.
Yeah. I see what you did there.
Well, a squirrel's brain relative to his skull size is pretty small, right?
Yeah, it's just like that.
Wow, that was good. So yeah, I've shot squirrels in the vitals before, right? You know, center mass, and I didn't use a powerful enough gun. I think it was like a Daisy single shot, you know, power stroke, whatever.
Thick skin.
And not there's anything wrong with the gun, but if you don't understand the limitations of what you're asking it to do, you can run into some issues out there. And I felt really bad, you know, because we're always looking for that one-shot ethical kill. And when you know that an animal is suffering, to me, there's no worse feeling in the world, because you don't want to create any undue suffering ever.
Yeah, you made a mistake.
So it was something that you did, and I really learned from that. I don't advocate for using air guns just for that simple. Not that you can't do it if you're a skilled guy and you know what your equipment is capable of doing, absolutely. But just for anybody that's going to, you know, get out there and start squirrel hunting, I would recommend a shotgun. Me personally, I'm a Mossberg guy as opposed to anything else as well. I like the tang mounted safety. There's a lot of great features with the Mossberg. But I use a 20 gauge more so than I use a 12 gauge, just because of recoil, follow-up shots, and honestly, for deer, I think, or deer or squirrel, I think there's enough great loads out there that either way you can get the job done without having to step all the way up to it.
The thing we do with the air rifles is, I didn't get to that, is that it's a big, there's a lot of us together. Like when we hunt with shotguns, it's usually we break into like 10 or 12 groups, 2 people apiece.
Right.
When we go out with the Squirrel Master Classic, there's something like 100 of us in the woods. We're sort of groups of 10.
So it's a follow, right? You all just shoot at once?
Exactly. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. So we get around the tree, which is instrumental, because squirrels are smart. They're all smart. But these guys will get on the other side of the tree. So if you can get enough people around the tree, you can constantly engage that squirrel. And I mean, it might take 2 or 3 shots, but when you have 10 guys shooting at it, it happens pretty fast.
Sure.
So I do squirrel hunt with pellet rifle myself. You know, it's a little harder. One of the things that helped is the Gamo Swarm, and this year that's the Gamo Swarm Magnum. They've actually made it their most powerful power plant into a repeating system. So it's pretty cool. You break it, it feeds a pellet directly into the chamber, and then you snap it up, and you're ready to fire. You know, it's just bang, instead of having to fish a pellet out in the single shots like we're used to with the more powerful air rifles that they make. That was huge for squirrel hunting, because you're doing this, trying to find a pellet and trying to keep an eye on that squirrel.
Which is almost impossible.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the other thing you're looking down for, which also, you know, this is squirrel hunting is tough on the neck. Plain and simple. You know, I mean, deer hunting is tough on the butt because you're sitting there all day, you know, and it's cold. But squirrel hunting kills your neck. And we're also in Alabama. I mean, we're talking about relatively the closest you can get to swampland. Maybe even you want to call it swampland, depending on your your criteria for a swamp. But I mean, we're walking around in some thick stuff too. I mean, yeah. I mean, you're looking up, you're looking down.
Are you looking down?
Yeah, for snakes. Yeah. You know, I wear a pair of Rocky hunting boots. We have their core. I actually have a pair of 1,600 gram benselets that are, the way they wick. They're first of all, I wear them for the rubber because I'm pretty much going through 6-8 inches of water. You know, and they're going to handle that, and the rubber gives them an inherent, you know, snake resistancy. So if you do run into that cottonmouth, which we have almost every hunt, we've found a rattlesnake. But the nice thing is they wick. So when I'm hunting up here in New York and Pennsylvania, and we even hunted in Vermont, the honeymoon we went hunting, I married the right one.
Remember you said that.
They keep your feet warm, you know, so they worked out well for both.
The boots keep your feet warm in the day. The wife keeps the feet warm.
And we'll leave it there, right?
Okay, that's it.
So
the Rocky boots. Nice.
Yeah. Now I was thinking where else I hunt. You know, I love prairie dog hunting. You can't be a long range shooter if you don't enjoy applying it in the field, because now you're talking sub-minute of angle targets. You know, you're talking unknown distance, which even when you do practice on a structured range, it's still all known distance targets and known conditions. You know, now I grab my gear, I ship out to Texas, land, and I don't know anything. It's like I'm like, well, what's our altitude even? You know, I got to build a whole new dope chart based on that. You know, that's where Shooter helps, the app. But that really challenges you. And then when you go back and practice long range shooting, whatever it is you're into, you start applying it based on the idea of, well, I want to build this round to be this accurate because one day I may take it prairie dog hunting. You know, or I want to know my reticle this well because one day I'm going to take it prairie dog hunting. Or you know what, I've never cared about learning how to mill a target through a reticle, but now I know that prairie dog is X MOA or X mil or point X mil,
Mhm.
you know, and I can start using this to determine range. And you need to be able to do that on the spot because sometimes they don't hang around as long as you like them to. But
Yeah.
that's the challenge, yeah.
Like whack-a-mole.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, small game hunting in general is very challenging.
Mhm.
Prairie dog hunting is one of the ultimate challenges as far as being able to precisely, make that one shot. And yeah, you might get a lot of shooting done through the course of a day, but you want to make all those shots count because you spend a lot of time developing those modes.
Yep.
Spend a lot of time, confirming zeros when
Yeah.
you're traveling back and forth from this place to that place. And if you're doing all of those steps and going through all that stuff, you really want to make sure that when you get out into the field, you're successful, as successful as possible. Obviously, not every hunt is going to be successful in harvesting game or
We
taking
found
an
that out.
animal.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you guys have that experience
so
just
far.
fresh in your mind from
Right.
this morning. But every hunt's going to be successful if you're using the right equipment and if you're around people that you enjoy being around, because that's what it's really all about is the
Absolutely.
community, right?
Definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Um,
So what do you hunt with that?
Basically deer and turkey,
Okay.
and the squirrel. We do squirrel every once in a while. I love the getting together once a year for the squirrel hunts. Deer, this
Yep.
with a rifle barrel
Mhm.
and a scope on it. Usually, in this county we can't hunt rifle. We can't use rifle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, unfortunately. But they're working on trying to change that. So hopefully they change it and then we can use rifle. Because we were talking about AK-47, with a.
Yeah.
I think we were too about
Yep.
hunting with an
Yeah,
AK-47.
Long Island's the same thing. It's shotgun only.
Yeah.
But the hunting grounds, we have one area used to be owned by RCA Radio.
Yeah.
The hunting grounds is more than 5,200 acres
Wow.
and it actually backs up to the high school. So I'm still living in a part of the country, in New York, albeit, of where you can go hunting in the morning and then go to school.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
But obviously you can't bring your gun. But it's pretty cool how that works.
Yeah. So you had said that what was it? You said squirrel hunting's hard on the neck, deer hunting's hard on the butt.
Yeah.
And I say turkey hunting's hard on the pride.
Yeah.
Or the patience even.
Sure.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough one. But I love deer hunting. I'll bow hunt. So I'll bow hunt in the once bow hunting season opens.
Yep.
I'll try to get out there and sit in a stand.
Get out for your regular firearm too.
Yep, get out for a regular shotgun. I'm gonna try this year to do muzzle loading. Obviously, we got a IFG. I'm gonna get out there and do a little bit of muzzle loading with it. With
So why don't you tell
IFG.
us about the shot?
So IFG is a great firearm, great gun. This is actually a 12 gauge black powder. It's got chokes in it. It's all set up. So
You know what's great about it? What's great about a tripod camera? You can do stuff like this.
That's true. Look right down there. Look right down there. The other way.
So yeah, I like the modern twist on it. Usually when you're dealing with black powder firearms, you don't have the luxury of chokes to be able to work that shot the way you need to work it.
Exactly. The old days were, you'd say with the old black powder, they'd shoot and it'd bounce down the barrel and then it would come out, aiming here, but it would end up hitting over here. You don't have the rifling or chokes or anything else.
So you run Hodgdon 777, that's
Yeah.
good stuff too.
Yeah.
It's not as sensitive and delicate as black powder and goes bang a lot more often.
Yeah, most definitely. So Hodgdon powder is what I swear by. You do too, right?
We use I have a little mini cannon. I'll bring that in next time. Next time I'm on the show with you, I'll bring it in. We have this little mini cannon, fires a 30 caliber bullet,
Nice.
and we stuff it with usually Pyrodex. It recommends
Cool.
Pyrodex. So
Cool. You shoot it through a wall?
I've only shot it outside, but yeah, probably it's got some punch to it.
Well, why not?
Absolutely.
We're actually, that's one of the things we're going to do is we've got ballistics film for the glass, and we're going to actually take that to the range and do some shooting of some ballistics film to see
Cool.
how that goes.
Awesome.
We're talking about the ballistics film on glass to protect kids and businesses and churches and such.
All that good stuff.
So
you
for
mentioned.
hunting.
So I'm a deer hunter. I like to get out. Unfortunately I don't have my bow hunter certificate, but I understand that you teach some hunter ed type classes. Do you offer
I
a
do.
bow hunting
I
class?
don't do the bow hunting.
Okay.
Yeah, I've helped with it, but I'm
Okay.
not certified to do it by myself. But hunter ed, the gun, the general, I do.
Okay,
We
so
do that anywhere from 1 to 3 times a year at Bass Pro in Auburn.
okay, cool. But I'm sure you know somebody. You can put
Oh,
me
yeah.
on with
Oh,
somebody
yeah,
that.
definitely.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, if you guys are looking for hunter safety courses as well, make sure you seek out PS&Ed because that's where you're going to get the best information, I think.
Cool.
Right. So yeah, I'm a deer hunter. And like we were talking about, I want to get you gentlemen out to Maine next year for yeah, man, because I got all my family's up there, and we have people, you know, in different locations that are kind of close together. So we'll have a bunch of land access and black bear season runs concurrent up there as well. And actually, the non-resident hunting permits up there are really low priced compared to some other places that you can go. And they're not restrictive on like a lot of equipment and things like that.
Nice.
So yeah, Maine's a really cool place to go. We'll have a place to stay. We'll have warm food in our belly every day.
Nice.
And all we got to do is go out and try and make it happen.
And maybe some game in our belly too, if we're lucky enough.
Absolutely,
right?
if we can get the job done, right? Absolutely.
I'd only been to Maine probably 15 years ago. I had a relative that was sick, and we went up there. Well, no, it's more than that. It was almost 30 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I've been married 27 years, so it had to be over 30 years ago that I had been up there. So it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But that's beautiful. I want to do some black bear hunting for sure, and grizzly eventually. But
Yeah, you gotta take a ride for that.
Yeah, that's going to be someplace else. We don't have any of those. But
Hopefully, right?
yeah, I travel to Maine whenever I get the opportunity. And it's beautiful there. My family is there. There's good seafood there, which you can't get here. And I crave it every so often. You know, I really want some good seafood. But when I do, I know I can't get it around here because there's no ocean here.
Yeah, you're in Long Island.
Yeah, I could come down to Long Island. I got some friends down in NYC.
Anyone that's from the East Coast has been crabbing. I always say that squirrel hunting is the hunting with crabbing is the fishing. You know, it's just all action. That's why I love it. You know?
Yeah.
But so what do you guys think about some? Let's talk about hunting restrictions. You know, what do you think about point restrictions, doe permits?
I don't know. I guess I'm indifferent about it. You know,
All right.
I think if well, we had talked about this earlier too, as far as all the restrictions that are out there. They're out there because somebody did something stupid. Somebody did something that just wasn't right. Just didn't. It just, you know, morals and ethics are out the window. So I think a lot of the times we have laws that are made because somebody does something, and politicians think adding another law is going to stop people from doing bad things.
That's right. Poach is going to poach.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I mean, antler restrictions, I'm typically not going to take something that's, you know, small antlered, but it's a progression. When you first start hunting, you'll take anything you can because you're excited about it. And then eventually, you know, you're going to try a little harder, maybe do bow hunting, etc. And as you get more, then you'll do the trophy aspect, and then eventually you've trophied out, and then you're like, I just enjoy being in the woods. I don't care if I get anything at all.
Right.
So it's kind of like a full circle.
Then you start bringing a camera in the woods with you, right?
Yeah, and then you start
those guys do
recording it. So.
It's true. I mean, when it comes to that, I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. I was hunting with somebody. That's when I got my first deer too. I was able to get off, and I was free for opening day. And I'm sitting in the tree stand, and like 8 in the morning, a big doe passes me, and I say, well, you know, it's early. I had a really easy shot, it's like 40 yards across the field. I'm in a tree stand. We're hunting in power lines. I was like, let's just let it go. You know, let's see what happens. So I let it go. And of course, like about 4 o'clock comes by, and it's, of course, I've seen nothing the rest of the day.
Right.
I'm in the tree stand for 8 hours now.
Yeah.
You know, I had a sandwich. I ate everything. I can live in a tree stand. I can put the hours in hunting. It's never a problem for me. It was cold too. 4 o'clock comes by, and I have my big game and small game, and a fox comes out.
Nice.
Stops and looks at me 25 yards away, and I say 2 things to myself. One, that's awesome. This all happens in a split second. I was like, that's a fox. I've only seen 1 or 2 in the woods outside of a zoo, and both times it was in a car. And 2 things crossed my head. This thing is looking right at me, or I must have really done a good job at my scent if I got a fox within 25 yards of me. Yeah. And as this is all crossing my head without thinking of it, the 30-06 comes to my shoulder, and I take a shot, and he starts running. He starts running across a log. He stops for a second. He gives me about that much, 25 yards. Bang! I hit him. I get a fox trophy. This is like 4 o'clock. I can't wait to go down and see what this thing looks like. And it's a pretty big fox. Actually, it'll be mounted. This is a year ago. He'll be mounted in another week or 2. It takes a while for taxidermy. Something that I've learned. I didn't know it takes so long.
It's very long.
So it's shortly after, about a half hour after, we're just about sunset, and doe comes back. Comes back. There's 2 does. There's a bigger one deeper in the woods, and there's a smaller one close. And I say, well, let's just see which way they start to walk. Of course, the bigger one in the woods is going deeper into the woods, and the one that I have the shot on starts going in. Gets in between 2 trees, gives me about that much of a window. It's a 50-yard shot. It's not a tough shot, but I had to thread the needle. Good shot placement. deer rolls down the hill.
Nice.
About 10 minutes later, it's almost dark. My buddy comes down from we're hunting basically two hills, right? One this way and then one this way. He comes down the hill, and he sees the doe. It wasn't a big doe, you know, but it was my first deer. And he says to me, he's like, "Why'd you take that shot?" He's like, "Yeah, we still had like about another half hour. You could have got a shot. What if the big rack comes out?" And I told him, I'm like, "Man, you can't eat the rack, you know." And that's just it. You know, I mean, I still have half of that meat in my freezer,
Right.
and that takes away from me saying, maybe I'll hunt this year, maybe I won't. You know, I mean, but if I have meat that I already need to eat, you know, I'm not going to get in the woods again. You know, I mean, that's just how I feel. But the problem is, and this is where restrictions come from, is that guy going for the rack. He'll shoot two does and use up two doe permits, one from a buddy that he knows isn't making it. You know, those should go back in the pile. You know, if you're not getting out to hunt, that doesn't mean you should take his deer. You know, I mean, let him populate. You know?
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's something that they allow you to do, is sign over doe permits like that to other people. And,
well, I mean, it does depend. You know, you can't blanket say, okay, so Long Island, you get a doe, you go and report it, they give you a doe permit, and every year people are hitting these things on the road. You know, so I mean, yeah, it really does depend where it is. You know, but people play a lot of games. You know, just to get an extra license, extra doe permit. And, and that's
hey,
where
honey, you're taking the 100 course, so you can get a license,
exactly.
so I can get doe permits.
Me and my 6 kids.
Yeah.
You know, right.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, especially since the course is free, so why not? I mean, it's a terrific course. I learned stuff in there that I would never thought of, like decoy bags, you know, and I was like, you know, I probably would have just threw that thing on my shoulder and walked into the woods.
Walking out of the woods and you start getting shot at, and you're like, why? Stop shooting at me.
If you've never been in the woods, you don't think of stuff like that. You
It
know?
was like a turkey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's why, like, my turkey vest has an orange strap that you can throw out the back, so you can shove the turkey in the back of it, and then it's got an orange like tail that comes out the back, so that when you're walking, if somebody does see a turkey, they're gonna know, well, that's not a turkey. That's,
hopefully.
Ideally, yeah.
Exactly. They'd be like, oh, it's a turkey with an orange stripe. Shoot him.
Yeah.
It's like,
That turkey's got a tattoo.
yeah.
It's a mutant turkey. You got to get him out of the herd.
Hey, there's peacocks here.
There's peacocks. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so speaking of doe permits, right, my position on that is a little bit different in that I wish more people would target does specifically. Because here's the thing, we have a population issue, and we know that we have a population issue. It's nationwide.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know this, but in the past couple of years, there have been different reports that have come out and say we have more deer now in North America than at any point in history, as long as it's been being recorded.
Well, hunting's on a decline, so.
Hunting's on the decline, right? And deer are able to live really well in a suburban area like Long Island, you know, Westchester County, places like this in New York State. They get really close to populated areas, which is how they end up getting struck by so many cars.
In
right?
Pennsylvania, I can hunt it with a hammer if I wanted to.
Absolutely. In a lot of places, it's like that. You could get, you know, the deer are so conditioned to being around.
They're not afraid of humans anymore.
Not anymore, right? So I think that if we get more people of the mindset that you can't eat the antlers, and we get more people thinking about, hey, when I take that doe out of the herd, I'm potentially not just taking one, I might be taking 3 deer out of the herd for next year, because if this doe is a young, healthy doe, she could pass on those genes to maybe 1, maybe 2 fawns, right? And now we have 3 deer where we could have had no deer.
Right.
But they all want the bucks.
Right. And to the rack hunter, you know, within the population, you're putting more food out there, you can have bigger bucks.
Yeah, that's
You know?
true.
Exactly.
They're going to be harder to find, which means it's going to be more of a prize.
There's going to be more competition for breeding, right? And the reason why we have so many overpopulation issues is because guys are after the big bucks, and so you get so many young bucks that have the opportunity to bed a doe that they would not ordinarily have an opportunity to bed if there was a big buck to push them off. Right? And so the big good deer could pass their genes on. So I think the other thing people need to look at is if you see an atypical deer that doesn't have that perfect rack, yeah, it might not be something that you're interested in shooting, right? Because for pride reasons or for trophy reasons or whatever it is, you might think, well, I really want a big typical deer. I'm looking for that big 5x5 or whatever it is. But bottom line, you know, if you take those deer with bad genes that we don't want to pass on out of the herd, then you're getting a better quality herd with more big, mature bucks that are passing on quality genes, right? So I think the doe harvesting really people need to really think about harvesting more doe as opposed to fewer does.
Yeah, and that's actually, you mentioned a couple things as far as deer does increasing. And being a hunter ed instructor, I see it it's crazy how many people sign up for these courses and then one don't show up. And why is that? Because it's free.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And that's a shame because
It
there's
is.
people that want to get in the woods that can't get in.
Definitely.
I can't tell you how many times that I tried to get into a hunter's ed course and was packed, booked for months in advance,
Yep.
and I couldn't get in. And I know, especially from what we do now, that there were open seats there.
Mine sell out. I should say mine fill up because it's free. Mine fill up within a day.
Yeah.
Within a day, 30 seats full like that.
Mhm.
And I have people calling me for weeks after, hey, I want to get into the class. Is there a waiting list? There's no waiting list. Can I show up and stand there? And if somebody doesn't show up, can I get in the class? And I'm like, sure.
That's actually how I got into mine.
Yeah, you're waiting.
Mhm.
Just standing around waiting.
Yep.
And so, I mean, I think the first class when I got certified that we had, or the first class I helped with in my process of getting certified, we had 80 students in the
Really?
class. Yeah.
Yeah.
We show up to the door for Brianna, our 19-year-old. We show up to the door when she was 12 and knock on the door at Fayetteville Manliness Rod and Gun Club. Knock on the door. They open the door. The room is packed of people. And I was just like, we're here for the Hunter Ed class. And the guy goes, it's full. It filled like 1 minute after we opened the door. And I was like, okay, sounds like you need more instructors. And he's like, you interested?
Nice.
And I was like, sure.
Right.
So I go in and start filling out the paper, and he comes over and goes, by the way, your daughter's in the class. I was like, okay,
Cool.
nice. You know, so, but it's, yeah, it's crazy. And then another thing too, we said, a doe permit, and a lot of people, just so people know out there, doe permit actually is DMP, a deer management permit.
Right.
So, and I think November 1st, you can actually go out and get more doe permits, more DMPs.
Oh, cool.
Deer management permits. You're able to get add on if you.
Mhm. Yeah, I actually have one. I have one county I want to try to add on in case I do get an extra hunt. I'm going to be trying to get up in 1R, and I've been working with Taurus a lot lately, and they have the new 44 Magnum Raging Hunter.
Yep.
And I shot at targets. I mean, it's massive, it's accurate, and the 44 Mag is going to do the job.
For sure.
I've never done any pistol hunting yet either,
Right.
too. So I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to write a review on the experience.
Very cool.
Nice.
I don't know if anyone wears ear protection when they hunt. I do. I'm actually big on it. And a lot of people aren't. I get it too because you want to be able to hear everything. But I wear these. These are from Pelter, and they don't even make this model anymore. So I'm not paid to say this. They gave me these. Full disclosure, they're one of my sponsors. But this is the old Sport Tacs. They're new ones. The TAC 500 works just as well. I can hear more in the woods with these on.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you said you don't wear them because you want
Right.
to hear things,
Right.
that actually
I-
helps.
I would-
heighten
yeah.
your hearing.
Of course, I want to protect my hearing, but the number one reasons why I wear this is my hearing isn't number one. But two things. One, it's going to be cold, and they are earmuffs, so they keep my ears warm, number one. And I'll hear stuff that I wouldn't hear. That deer that was 50 yards away, I heard a branch snap that I don't think I would have heard if it wasn't my first one. So, but yeah, these are going to be fun with that 44 Mag with the brake. But that's something I'm really interested about doing. I want to see what the ballistics are for 44 Mag past 50 yards. Maybe we can do a 50-yard zero and see what happens at 100, even 2, because it's almost a 9-inch barrel. So, I mean, this thing's a monster. It's like Batman pulled out, Joker pulled out Batman.
Now, I'm familiar with the Raging series of pistols. I'm not familiar with the Raging Hunter. I'm assuming that because so many other guns have a scope mounting interface on the gun, that this does as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's got a full pick rail right on top.
Cool.
You can get it in solid black, or they have a two-tone. I forgot which one's coming to me to work on. Terrific trigger. It's ported, right? It's 44 Mag only. I know a lot of the other Raging series interchangeable. Yeah, it's 44 Mag only. But it was a lot of fun to shoot. We were shooting steel targets with it. We were shooting the I forgot the name of them now. But they Pendleton, the same save company. It's they have a revolving target that they make now. They have a target division. And it was amazing because this thing's a 45-pound plate, and there was 2 of us. Actually, it's more than that because it's 2 next to each other, 2 IPSC silhouettes kind of mounted side by side on a pivot.
Yep.
And me and another shooter were able to spin it with the 44 Magnum.
Wow.
I mean,
That's a lot of
90 pounds of steel we're spinning with this thing.
A lot of energy.
So I'm not worried about ethics. It's going to work. The recommendation I've always heard is 357 or larger for handguns.
Yep.
You know.
44 Magnum, et cetera.
Yeah, I would go bigger. 357 even seems a little better. Be close and good, you know. But yeah,
depends on the round too. You know what you're using for the round.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you're right. 357 is like right on that edge.
Mhm.
It's like I always tell people 38 or 380 in the low end for self defense.
Sure.
You're going to shoot a 357. That's why a lot of people don't know, but that's why the Law enforcement went from 357 down to 38 special plus P because it was over penetration. It was
Yeah.
going through the bad guy and hitting other people, and that's why they dropped it down.
That's where 40 Smith & Wesson came from, because no one wanted to use 10 mil for the same reason.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they dropped that down.
40 short and weak.
I've never heard that before, but I like it very much.
And that's funny you mentioned that too, because we talked about this the other day. All of us did actually. 40 Smith & Wesson, or you own any 40s at all?
Nah, actually, I don't.
Any 40s at all?
I've owned 2. I've sold them both.
I don't own any either. And I said,
I
someone
don't
gave
recommend
one
it
to me,
either.
I take it just because I don't like saying no to guns. But
The mindset behind the development of the cartridge, I'm 100% on
Right.
board. I think the same way. It's like, okay, so a 9 is nearly 357, 45 is 45.45. So what's in the middle? 40.
Right.
And the idea is, well, now we'll have the capacity of a 9
exactly.
with the stopping power of a 45. And the truth is, you didn't get either of them, but for some reason, you got recoil.
A lot of energy in that right? It's a very high pressure cartridge.
It is.
And a really stout recoil and not a lot of muzzle energy. I mean,
it's
a
chambered
lot,
in
but not.
small, light pistols, which is
Yeah.
what they wanted, and they got it. So it's. I don't see a lot of 40s. I don't see a lot of stuff. I see a lot of manufacturers omitting the 40 caliber and the new products that are coming to the market. Like Walters had a bunch of guns, and they had a few that were supposed to come out in 40 that just didn't come out, and they're just like, there's just no reason. No one wants them.
I think as the 9mm has, as ammunition technology has continued to
evolved,
develop,
got better.
right? Initially, the thought process was, you're right. There's a gap. There's something in the market that needs to happen, because some guys believe that 9mm isn't enough. There are some people that believe that 45 is too much. So maybe we can find that sweet spot right in the middle.
Yeah.
The problem is
45
that
is not too
ammunition. Yeah, well, 45 is not too much for one, right? So there's a problem with that logic
Right.
as well. But then, as ammunition technology continues to evolve, which it's always going to do, right? The 9mm becomes a more viable cartridge.
Yeah.
And so when the 9mm becomes more viable, and there's so much ammunition out there, and the 45 will never not be viable, and there's so much ammunition out there, and there's so many great guns available for each of those, it's like, why are we going to keep cranking out more guns in a middle cartridge that's filling a gap that doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah.
And a lot of law enforcement agencies I think they're what's keeping that cartridge going in a way, because they don't have the money to change guns to something that is actually more practical.
Right.
But when they start changing their guns back to 9mm, which a lot of them are going to do, or to 45, 40 Smith is going to be gone. I predict 5 years from now, there won't even be any more new guns.
Mark
coming
that.
out.
5 years from now.
5 years, you heard it.
Now, you had mentioned gaps, so I want to talk about Glock automatic pistol.
Yeah, sure.
But then also on that side too, you had said that and I lost my train of thought. Dang it! Why does that happen to me?
I don't know.
Old age, gray
It
hair.
happens
I'm
to
trying to
all
shave it away.
It's because we're supposed to be out in a turkey blind right now, and we're filming this. That's what it is. We got 20 minutes, so.
Clock watch. This guy's over here, he's got his eyes glued to the clock.
So,
You notice that only Matt's gun is on the table? It's because mine is still in the blind.
I know exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I saw that.
guns. That's guns.
Guns. Excuse me.
So Glock automatic pistol, same kind of thing with 40 Smith & Wesson. That was designed to be kind of an intermediary too between 9 and 45.
Sure.
Still same pressure as a 45, or better pressure than a 45, but lighter, more ammo, etc. But it's just kind of went by the wayside. It used to be for the gap. Yeah, redundant, right. It used to be for the gap gun that was made by Glock. Other companies made guns that would shoot the ammo, and then that went bye-bye. And now you can't even, with the gap, you're not even, it's like, what do you do with it?
Fell in the gap.
Yeah, fell in the gap. People have actually, hey, I got a gap, you want to buy it? I'm like, no, you want to give it to me?
Right.
That's what I was going to say. 38 special.
Right.
New York State Corrections just got rid of all their 38 specials this year.
Wow.
Really?
They had 38 specials, so we're talking about training and funding and not having the money to switch out. Yeah, they're 38 specials. And you know where they got their Glocks from?
No. Right.
New York State troopers. 3 years ago, the troopers upgraded and gave all their Glocks to the state corrections. State corrections never upgraded until some meeting happened and a Busby, like, oh, we still got these guns in the armory and we're not using them. And somebody heard about it, like, what? The troopers gave you the guns and you're not using them? So they pushed it, and now they're starting. Last year, my cousin had to qualify on both the revolver and the semi. Yeah,
So what are they going to do with all those 38s now? Are they going to?
I guess they allow them to buy them if they wanted to buy their duty weapon, then they could. So
A lot of guys will.
What's that?
A lot of guys will.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. They've
Most
been
definitely.
carrying it a long time. They
Right.
want to keep it. You know,
Right.
I'm not a big proponent of buying a gun in 38 special, just because why buy a 38 when you could buy a 357 and shoot either?
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There are still manufacturers that make guns in 38 special only. And
Because they're a little lighter. You know, they can build a lighter frame and stuff like that.
yeah, I guess
Pressure,
you
but-
eliminate some potential.
Yeah.
You know.
But
some
that's about
liability.
it, really. Yeah. So
So what about that 320? So we're talking about all these intermediary cartridges, right?
Right.
What about that 327 Federal that came out in some of the Ruger series of?
I haven't shot it.
No, you
No, not yet,
you
no.
guys tried it.
No. You.
I
I
have
have not.
I have done some work with some 380, some ballistics gel. I shot Federal's
Really?
new Hydroshock Deep,
Mm-hmm.
and it penetrated 14 inches of ballistic gel. It had the same penetration as a 9mm.
Yeah, 14
distance.
inches is great.
Yeah, I was like that'll do it. I mean, the block didn't nearly take the shock that the 9 took, but the penetration was there.
Well, what
Yeah.
about what about
that's-
permanent wound cavity, right? Because that's one of the things I always say guns don't kill people.
Yeah.
Gaping holes in vital organs kill
Right.
people, right? So that's what we're trying to create. Well, what is
Yeah.
the functionality of a handgun round and its ability to
Yeah.
stop a target, right? It's surface area of the wound
Yeah.
that's bleeding.
Size of the
Right.
wound bleeds
It's the
out quicker.
maximum, right? So we're trying to create the maximum amount of hydrostatic shock within the body.
Yep.
So what did you say that the permanent wound cavity wasn't all that impressive?
Yeah, no, it blew out and then came back in. It wasn't that impressive. But
So a
certainly-
stretch cavity. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was there, but I mean, obviously, it wasn't the same as the 9. It was much smaller, without a doubt. It was a 380. You know, I mean, it did what it did, but it did that, and that 14 inches that was through denim. First layer was leather,
Yep.
and then denim, and then the gel. So I mean, that was also through clothing, 14
Right.
inches of gel. So I mean, over penetration in most instances. You know, I mean, I don't know what kind of energy it had after, past, human width,
Right.
I mean, 6-8 inches.
Right.
But it certainly penetrated. You know, I mean, that was always an old report with 380. You know, oh, winter jacket, it's not going to penetrate.
Yeah.
That was an 8-yard test.
Nice.
You know, I mean, I go a little further than the FBI, like when I can, because like, okay, everyone likes to test that 7 yards, but what if,
9 to 15 feet's the average,
Yeah.
defensive
Mhm.
confrontation.
Yeah, but you really want to, like you say, if you can add to that, you can always add, you can never take away,
Right,
right?
very
We don't
true.
want to get
Right.
closer to our target, right? But we definitely want to see if we're going to get the same results
That's
at
right.
that 10 or 12 yard distance, because you don't know. I mean, just because the majority of engagements happen at such and such a distance, last time I checked, criminals weren't reading crime stats
Right.
before they're coming out to attack somebody, right? So,
it's funny too, because I always get this one, and it reminds me of something I tell students when they ask me how many rounds are in the gun, and I say guns can't count, you
Right.
know, 'cause so they remember to check the chamber of the magazine before they walk away.
yeah. Status checks are free, right?
Yeah, right. There you go.
So you'd rather have it efficient than effective. I mean, if it's effective, it's effective. But to have it an efficient firearm, efficient round,
Mhm.
that's what you.
Yeah, it's all about that transfer. And here's a good way I teach, like a ballistics 101, when I teach someone about hollow point ammunition. When you shoot a piece of paper, the paper doesn't move, right?
Right.
It's getting hit with a piece of lead traveling 2 or 3 times the speed of sound, right? More like 3 or 4 in some cases. But if you go up and you flick that paper is going to go flying off the clip. And that is energy transfer, right? The bullet has to hit and stop. That's the idea. That's why a hollow point opens up. It doesn't open up to create a bigger channel. It certainly does that.
Mhm.
But the idea is when it stops, it's going to stop, and all that energy
Kinetic
transfer
energy
into the
transfers
target.
to the
That's got to go somewhere out, and that's where that cavity that we're talking about comes from. A lot of
Absolutely.
people don't realize that. But if it doesn't do that, then it's going to be just like getting
That's
poked
right.
with a needle, right?
Yep.
And the target's going to remain until they bleed out. They're not even going to realize they're shot.
So we said 2 things when it comes in my classes. I'll tell students, I'll say there's 3 things that are positive that come from a hollow point or defensive ammunition. The main reason why you want to do it is because it's going to stop pass through, which we've kind of alluded to with that mushrooming, that projectile opening up is going to slow it down and cause the pass through to be less likely. And then from that comes the other things we mentioned. You just mentioned one, the kinetic energy. You got that extra oomph behind that projectile. And
Dumping all the energy,
into
the target,
it, right? And then, like you had mentioned, as far as being able to a bigger wound cavity, which is going to cause more fluids to leak out quicker, which means that threat stops faster. So,
Exactly.
So those 3 main focus things on a defensive round.
Right, and you hit on something too, which is really great, which is efficiency versus effectiveness, right? Because at the end of the day, if you get a good shot on a target, and in some cases multiple good shots on a target depending on the situation, but if you do your job and deliver a good shot, you're probably going to get the desired result. It's just how quickly, right? And how many rounds is it actually going to take.
That's right.
And by having a round that expands and creates those big nasty wounds that we're looking for, And preferably, you know, some of the companies now have actually specifically designed jackets to be a little bit sharp and to really cut.
Splinter off.
Right, and yes, so we have some fragmenting ammunition out there too that's designed to maximize that energy dumped into the target and maximize all those little wounds kind of branching off from the main.
Have you guys ever recovered hunting bullets?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
I've got a bunch of them that I use in my class that I'll actually hand out to students in the class.
What kind of bullets?
Everything, and casing. So I'll have a little orange box that has the casings, projectiles that have been shot into stones, bounced off rocks, been shot into milk jugs of water, you know, stuff like that. So I've got one that actually has the rifle, and you can actually see it right in the copper clad.
I did some work the last 2 years in a row. I did some work with one of these Precision X. This is when their ELDX round first came out, the Precision Hunter in 308. And it's amazing what they did because it's an accurate bullet. They've taken the AMAX and made it more accurate, basically by building a better tip that doesn't deform through aerodynamic melting, if you will. They found that was happening with their old polymer. So they changed the polymer. They changed the bullet a lot, gave it a higher BC, but it still expands relatively uniformly. I have one that I think expanded at like 1,400 feet per second, which is slow for a
very slow
bullet. We shot some of that into ballistics gel. Oh no, sorry, that was the next year. The next year we shot the Federal TLR, with Federal Edge, it's loaded into the Federal Edge ammunition, and they've done something interesting because we were talking about jackets. They've modified the bullet. They're using a bonded core, which means the jacket stays onto the bullet. Right. So what they've done is they've made a bullet that will expand very close. So when I shot that Fox with the 30-06, it was one of those Federal TLR rounds, and it did expand at 25 yards on a relatively soft target.
Right.
Definitely not my go-to for small game, but it's in my hand and it worked, and it was a good shot. It was very ethical.
Right, yeah.
And believe it or not, it's getting mounted, and it really didn't damage the fur too much.
Nice.
You know, for an 06.
Right.
But it also still expands now at those slower velocities the way they've built it. And we're seeing these leaps and bounds in hunting ammunition to where long-range hunting outside of 300 yards is considered long-range hunting to most people. Right. Most people won't take a shot inside of 3 or outside of 3 because they feel like it's not ethical. But we're starting to push that further because, all right, so the gun that we used, we were at the 300-yard mark. Our ballistics gel only measures the face of it. I think it's 4 inches by 4 inches. It's not a big target. We're 300 yards, so it's slightly over minute of angle. Right. You know, it's half the size of the deer vital. And we used two different rifles. We used a Remington 770, which is like the epitome of the cheapest hunting rifle you can buy. They don't even make
very entry level gun.
Yeah. And we used a Savage 111. That's my 30-06. Definitely a better gun, but I mean, we're not talking about a $1,000 hunting rifle here. It's still a very affordable, usable rifle. Right. We topped them off with some cheap glass from Nikon. Cheap's a bad word. It's their new Black X series, and very affordable. It's like $600 price point. So I mean, for around that $1,000 mark, we have a gun that's going to hit inside of that a gun with box ammunition that's hitting inside of that 4 by 4 inch square.
So just about a minute
and
accuracy.
over again. Every single shot. And the first shot we hit on the gel passed through 2 of those gel blocks and stopped in the last 2 inches of it with a perfect mushroom at 300 yards. I certainly would take that shot on a deer, hands down. The accuracy on that, I mean, we're still looking at like 2 and 3 inch groups at 300. It's still ethical to push that 30-06 out to 4, 5, even 6, or even 700 yards. And if there's no wind, it's as simple as knowing your come up and squeezing the trigger. Yeah. So I mean, a 700-yard shot that's still going to be lethal on a deer. You know, hunting is changing every year, and the long range is getting pushed back further and further. You know?
Technology is getting better and better.
Yeah. Now you mentioned you travel out west for some prairie dog hunting. Have you hunted any like mule deer or antelope out there?
No, I haven't.
It's
on the list. Yeah. Our friend Tim Treffren, he was on the season 4 Top Shot with us, and he's out in Wyoming, and he's a PH, and he's invited us out, you know, plenty of times. I just haven't had the time to put it together. And a hunt like that, I'd want to make sure we're not talking a weekday hunt. I mean, I'd want to go out there for like 10 days to make sure that the weather is right, and if I need to move somewhere else to hunt and set up somewhere else, we have the time to do that, because I don't want to take that trip and come back empty-handed.
No, that's it. That's a very expensive trip. A lot of glassing. And if you do make that shot, you might have a long hike to wherever you got to get to recover an animal. So definitely want to be.
You take something like that with you if you want.
Speaking of glass, I actually had these on the prairie dog hunt. These are the Nikon's Laser Force. Matt has a pair of them. I have a pair of them too. These guys do a ton for us. They place a ton of products in our class, and it's Nikon stuff, so it's never hard to take it. You know, it's not like I gotta use that. You know, I'm really excited to use it.
But around, they're good.
These I've blazed a prairie dog at 800 yards with them. That's a pretty small thing. Yeah. And what you get at a range finding binos that you don't get just with a range finder is it's number one, more comfortable, but you're also dealing with 10x magnification. Right. So when you're working on like a 4x or even a 7x on a range finder, you're not going to be able to laze that smaller target. You're going to have to laze something bigger around it and then kind of figure out and hope you're close.
And hope that the depth of field, that you have your depth of field correct and that the smaller target isn't behind.
That's right. Yeah. And it's also one device, and I'm not putting down my binos to range something and then get on the rifle. You know what I mean? Yeah. And these worked out really good, really clear. You know, prairie dogs are designed to live like all wild animals, and they are almost the same color as the sand. So a dog sitting or laying down next to their hole, very hard to see. You know, I mean, so if you have cloudy glass or just the color doesn't transfer the same, you're going to miss them. You know, and they stay still, and they know when they're getting shot at. They're not dumb. But they're still hungry, so they come out of the hole. Yeah. So yeah, we've used these, and I've actually laced a rock with them at Mifflin County Sportsman's Association. We have a rock that's beyond the range. It's not a target, but it's 1710. You know, so yeah, I mean, and reflective enough to hit back. So yeah, good stuff. We had these out in the blind today. We wanted to laze to see how close the neighbor's house was. And he's 502 feet. Oh,
yeah. Right on that ragged edge.
We're just inside of that.
Yeah, awesome.
So, but yeah, cool stuff. I enjoy using these for sure.
And speaking of that too, and some people might not know because people will be watching this from everywhere. New York State's 500 feet from any structure. So any building, barn, outhouse, whatever that somebody could be in, you can't shoot a firearm. Bow is different. It's 100, 150 feet, I think it is. They just changed it recently. So that was something that we want. You can have your neighbor do one of the blue cards that would let you hunt on the property if they give you permission to shoot closer to their structure. But I just like to stay away from that. I stay at least 500 feet away from buildings, anyways, if I can help it.
It's always a good. It's better to err on the side of caution, right? And we all kind of.
And it's easy enough to be neighborly and just say, hey, I'm hunting today. Go with that, or a week before, hey, I'm hunting. It's open today.
You mean boom boom isn't good enough?
No, most people don't like that. Yeah.
No, a little more courteous than that, maybe. So, Frank, you had mentioned something about the camouflage ability of a prairie dog, right? And I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit, since this is the hunting show today. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about camo patterns, man, because there are so many it is like confusing when you go shopping for camo these days. You don't necessarily know what's good, what's bad, what's going to work where I'm at. Right, and there's so many different pieces of information out there that you just don't know if it's right. As far as like digital camo is supposed to really break up your outline, as opposed to a traditional pattern like a mossy oak
or a woodland camo that we used to
or the old BDU type camo, that kind of stuff. So, but I always think back to the I believe it was a Fred Bear quote that said, "You don't need all these fancy camo patterns. Your grandfather hunted deer in a red flannel shirt, right?"
Right.
So. What are your guys' take on some of the camo patterns that are out there, and is it too much? Like, is it too confusing?
And Fred Bear, if I'm not mistaken, his iconic shirt, the image of him was the red shirt,
right? With like a Stetson type hat on with a recurve. Yeah. I mean, he's like the man, right? Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
But he didn't need all of that stuff to get the job done, right?
Yeah.
So
my camo pattern. Is really, believe it or not, the gear I pick is based a lot more on function and comfort.
Sure.
I mean, the Rocky boots that I wear, those are a mossy oak pattern, but I really didn't care about that.
Right.
I approached them with, I'm like, I need rubber boots, and I only want to own one pair. Who's gonna be good in the winter and good in the spring?
Sure.
Summer, even some days. So I mean, as long as it works. I mean, it all breaks your pattern up. It's really easy to do that. We're hunting out of a blind today. So I mean, I'm wearing camo anyway, but the reason I'm doing that is because my hunting clothes keep me warm.
Don't let him lie using his Speedo.
Outstanding.
Not wishes there.
I missed that.
Polar bear club out there. So I mean, I'm pretty open to different camo patterns, and that's only when you're hunting animals that can tell.
Right.
I wear blaze orange in the woods.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. I don't care. My life is worth it.
Yep.
Deer can only see black and white.
Right.
It doesn't bother me. There's a lot of states require it, which, I'm mixed on that. It's your personal protection equipment. If you don't want to wear it, you shouldn't be forced to, but it makes me feel better knowing that someone, at least in the woods, should at least have the orange on. It takes a lot of liability off of me,
Well, and that's the thing too that I would say is like it's not so much about you as an individual going out into the woods and choosing whatever and taking a risk with your own life, right? You're also putting some of the less intelligent hunters potentially in a bad situation because they're not going to necessarily see what they're shooting. You know what I mean? So we're opening ourselves up to putting those guys, and those guys shouldn't be in the woods.
No,
but unfortunately they are.
I have a story to that point, and I deal with this more often than not, especially when I either I'm shooting at a public range or even times when I was teaching at a public range. You get these people that would buy a gun and then get dressed for the range. They do nothing professional with a gun, yet they still they want to dress in all camo and everything else. And I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you're downrange. You're wearing a sand-colored camouflage right now. And the RSOs are going to reopen that range. The last thing you want to do is not be visible. It's like you never see anybody at the range say, "I'm going to throw on some orange and go down range." I do it. When we shoot at the 1,000 yard, I do two things. One, I throw on a vest because 1,000 yards away it's hard to make out a vehicle. Drive a white car, it's good, you can see that, and I put the flashes on.
Yep.
Why? Because 1,000 yards away, especially with the right dip in the road, you're not going to see someone that far away. And if you're not back and someone comes up, and we have a light system that works really good, but something short, and I'm 3/4 mile away, and then all of a sudden those lights aren't working anymore.
You ain't gonna see it coming.
Yeah,
lights out.
Right. No one knows you're down there. So it's I'm more big on being seen.
You had mentioned that the whole thought process, somebody just throwing on the camo and let's go. Hunter Ed, same thing. I'll get people that'll call me. They'll be like, hey, I'm hunting's next weekend. You got a course coming up? I'm like, no, I don't do a course that close to hunting season. Like, do you got one during hunting season? I'm like, no, I'm hunting. Most Hunter Ed instructors don't want to do a course during hunting season because they're out hunting.
So what you just said really resonated with me. Let's throw on camo and go.
Yeah.
Let's do that, Matt. So what do you? Let's wrap this thing up. When you say we get back in that blind.
I like the sounds of that. All right, so before we close, we got to say thank you to Lee Armory. Make sure you check out Lee Armory, one of our sponsors, as well as PowerTech flashlights. And we're going to actually have a little giveaway coming up for PowerTech flashlights. I got a text from James saying that they're going to give us flashlight to give away to some lucky viewers, listeners. So make sure you check that out.
Lucky came on the show.
Yeah,
very cool.
Maybe stuff one in your pants. Anyway, make sure you check out our website, like our Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please follow us, spread the word, help us go viral. Hopefully you send us messages, let us know what you want to see on future shows so we can talk about Q&A. We can bring that up. That's something we want to add in on future stuff. So please check it out. And I think we're good. Let's go hunting.
All right.
Thanks again for coming.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Pat.
Matt, always good pleasure. Hey, Frank, it was really nice to meet you this weekend, man. Thank you so much for coming out.
My pleasure, man. Nice meeting you too.
Appreciate it, man.
Let's get to the woods.
All right.
Stay safe, shoot straight.
And
have a good one, guys.